El aplauso más orgulloso. El consejo más sincero. El abrazo más caluroso. El apoyo incondicional. El momento más divertido. La escuela más didáctica. Y el hogar sin igual. Eso y más es la familia. Formemos familias y fortalezcamos a nuestra gran familia, la sociedad. Núcleo familiar.
Buenas noches a todos los que se encuentran con nosotros. Nos da muchísimo gusto que nos acompañen. Bienvenidos y gracias por estar conectados el día de hoy. Hoy tenemos como conferencista a una pediatra reconocida por ser autora de libros sobre crianza de los hijos, la doctora Meg Meeker, a quien agradecemos infinitamente su tiempo y las reflexiones que nos compartirá el día de hoy. Antes de comenzar, me voy a tomar unos minutitos para platicarles a toda la gente nueva que tenemos hoy qué es Núcleo Familiar. Núcleo Familiar es una asociación civil sin fines de lucro que se formó hace 3 años y busca generar contenidos positivos para ayudarnos a todos como sociedad a formar familias fuertes en Monterrey y en México. Esto lo hacemos a través de contenidos positivos, sencillos, laicos, prácticos y útiles, en formato impreso y digital, por medio de nuestra revista Aventura Familiar, el panfleto de Don Salpicón, que busca llegar al sector vulnerable de nuestra sociedad, la Familiateca, que son artículos para la familia dentro de nuestra página web, y Señalética, que son frases en lugares públicos donde se enaltecen los valores familiares. También compartimos nuestro contenido en formato de video y en audio, a través de nuestros podcasts y spots radiofónicos. En formato presencial o virtual, tenemos conferencias como es el caso de esta noche. Los invitamos a ver los webinars que hemos tenido a lo largo de este tiempo junto a grandes expositores. Las pueden encontrar dentro de nuestro canal de YouTube, Núcleo Familiar. Queremos agradecer infinitamente a nuestros patrocinadores que han creído en la importancia de la causa y han confiado en Núcleo Familiar como parte de la plataforma para juntos fortalecer familias fuertes y hacer posible este tipo de conferencias. También queremos agradecer infinitamente a nuestros inversionistas sociales, conformados por nuestro consejo directivo y hoy en día por los 300 donantes de Núcleo Familiar con aportaciones recurrentes mensuales. Muchísimas gracias. Y por último, también agradecemos a todas las cuentas de influencers que difundieron esta conferencia a través de sus redes sociales. Cada vez somos más aportando de diferentes maneras a esta causa y a la sociedad. Sin más preámbulo, los dejamos con la doctora Meg Meeker, madre y pediatra, que ha compartido su experiencia clínica y personal por medio de libros claros, concisos y de fácil lectura, llenos de sentido común. Y en esta ocasión nos compartirá la conferencia Strong Fathers, Strong Daughters. Adelante, doctora Meeker. Buenas noches.
Well, hello, friends. I'm so glad to be here with you today, tonight, whenever you're listening. And I really appreciate the opportunity to come and talk with you. But mostly, I really appreciate you being here today. And I really say that honestly, because as a pediatrician who's worked with kids for over 30 years, I'm so grateful when fathers and mothers come forward and want to learn more about their kids. And so that's why I'm sincerely grateful for you today. I'm going to do something kind of different. I'm going to talk about fathers and daughters, but I'm going to try to teach you dads how to see yourself through your daughter's eyes. Because a lot of times fathers, are very practical people and they think a certain way about themselves and they go into the relationship with their daughter thinking, well, what should I do and how should I do it? But if we can flip that around a little bit and I can take you behind your daughter's eyes a little, I really think that your relationship with your daughter will completely change. And I hope it will be very inspiring and encouraging to you. I don't know how fathers are there, but in the United States, I'll tell you, they're really having a tough time. As fathers, often they tell me they feel insecure. They don't know what they should do, particularly with their daughters, because, they're men and their daughters are girls and they just don't understand them. But also, our television and movies and so forth tend to beat up on dads. And that's really very sad to me and disheartening, because fathers are critical to the health of their daughters. And I mean that in every sense of the word. They're critical, but we don't show dads that. And so if you're a father listening, I really hope that you could take a big, deep breath and just start to open your mind to see yourself very differently. Now, when your daughter is born, I will tell you that immediately she knows the difference between you and mom. She hears your voice is different. She feels your arms are stronger. She feels more comforted in many ways. And as I write in my book, Strong Fathers, Strong Daughters, it's very important to understand that you, dads, are the most important man in your daughter's life. I know that's kind of sobering from some of you, because you think, no, my daughter's 14, 15, you don't understand. Yes, I do. You are the most important man in your daughter's life. If your daughter is 20, if she is 3, it doesn't matter, because a daughter's a daughter's a daughter to her dad. And she's linked to her dad by this gold strand of love, if you will. Now, she feels it, but dads may not necessarily know it's there. It's very important for fathers and mothers to realize that what a daughter needs and expects from a father is very different from what she needs and expects from her mother. From our, and think back to your own life growing up. Chances are you saw your mother very differently than you saw your father. Maybe some of you didn't have a father around, so you're very close to your mother. But we look at our mothers as sort of the comfortable one, who's going to love us no matter what. She's going to take us in. She's going to make us feel better. But when it comes to our fathers, daughters feel that towards their dads, but they have a different respect for their fathers. I don't want to say they're afraid, but they are in awe of their dads in a way. And so your mother can tell you you're smart, but when your dad tells you you're smart as a daughter, you're smart. So I don't know if you can see, the difference between the father and the mother. I have often seen little babies in my office, for instance, and mom and dad will both be there. Maybe it's a 6-month-old baby or 4-month-old baby, and mom will be trying to console the baby, and she'll be screaming and screaming and screaming. And mom's very nervous and kind of embarrassed because she's screaming in front of me, which I don't care. And then she'll hand the baby to dad, and it's almost like you can see the baby kind of melt. Dad is calm. Dad's not worried about how she's going to appear. She can hear dad's deep voice. She can feel dad's, strong arms around her. And it's as if she feels a security that she may not have felt with her mother. Now, this isn't not a moms are better than dads are better than moms. It's a balance. And it's just very important that we understand as mothers and as fathers that daughters look at us very differently. They look at their dads as gigantic. Dads are larger than life. As a little baby, imagine if you're 2 or 3 and you look up at this father who's just enormous. I think it would be pretty scary, but you don't want to be scared. You don't want your kids to be scared, of course, but to a little girl, she looks at you as the strongest, smartest, wisest man she's ever known, and that you are stronger and wiser than all of her friends' dads. So she doesn't need to worry about anything. But that's how, now dads may not feel that. They may look at their daughters and think, I don't know what to do. I don't know if I can do this. She's not going to like me as much as mom because she spends more time with her mother, or she's more affectionate to her mother. That doesn't mean anything. What she looks at when she sees you is something very, very different. She looks up and she sees a hero. And that's why I wrote a whole book on hero, being the strong father your children need. And as I was talking about the book, many dads came and said, no, you don't understand. I'm not a hero. I'm not a good basketball player. I don't make a lot of money. I said, no, that's not the point. To your daughter, you're a hero. Now, you may not feel like that, but it doesn't mean you're not one. Remember, we're seeing you through your daughter's eyes. Now, you are so important to your daughter, and this may frighten you a little bit, but don't. It's sort of a heavy task. If your daughter is sitting in the kitchen or in the living room and she's working on her homework or coloring on a page or reading a book, and you walk in the room, Dad, she immediately looks to you because she needs to figure out a couple things very fast. Does my dad see me? Does he like what he sees? Is he ignoring me? Is he in a good mood so maybe I can talk to him? Or is he in a bad mood so I better get away? Girls are that way. Daughters read their fathers all the time, not necessarily because they're interested in you, but they need to figure some things out about themselves. And the way that comes is through seeing how their dad sees them. And so you need to realize you'll walk in a room and maybe you'll notice your daughter coloring, or maybe you won't, or maybe you're on your phone or you're doing things, you're not paying any attention. But when you walk in the room, it's a big deal to your daughter. Now, why would your daughter do this? Why is your daughter watching you so much? And why is she looking for clues about how you feel? Well, if you think about it, when we're young, 5, 15, even 25 or older, we're trying to figure out who we are. We're trying to figure out why we're alive. Am I important? And do people value me? What do they think about me? Am I kind? Am I good? Am I awful? And so all of these questions are swirling around in a daughter's mind, and particularly when she's young and through her teen years, she's very, very insecure. So she needs to find answers about who she is, and she'll find them in you, Dad. Now, this is going on and you have no idea. So the next time you go to have dinner in your family, it's going to be a little different. You're going to be thinking, what is she thinking? What is she looking at? And I don't want to make you nervous, but it's important for you to understand you have that kind of power in your daughter's lives. Okay. You have that kind of power. So the messages that she gets from you about her worth, about her lovability, about her character, she takes them in, and that's who she becomes. So for instance, you understand this as a grown woman. If your dad told you you were smart, and he told you you were capable, and he told you you were a strong woman, you were. If, however, he yelled at you and screamed at you and told you you were dumb and you're never going to make anything out of yourself in life, you were, right? So we become, as women, who our dads tell us we are. And again, our mothers can tell us many things, and we believe our mothers, of course, but there's a power to a father's words in a daughter's life. And so it's very important as you think about moving forward after today, your interactions with your daughter, pay attention to her. If you walk into a room and you haven't seen her in a while, do something as simple as turn your phone off, or get off the phone, or look at her in the eye and say, "Hi, honey, how are you?" Even moments like that change who she becomes. But if you walk in the room and you don't even see her and you don't even pay attention to her because your mind is still at work, which is very easy to do, then she feels she's not worth you seeing. And so little things like that are so very simple to do, and you don't have to have a PhD in psychology to do them. These are the things that are going to change your daughter's lives. And these are things that you can do every single day. And so what I wanted to really encourage you is that when you see her, look her in the eye when you can. If you haven't seen her in quite a while, put your phone down, stop talking to somebody, don't read your emails or your texts, don't text anybody for 3 minutes. put it in your pocket, look at your daughter in the eye and say, hey, it's so good to see you. How was your day? And even for a 3-minute conversation, it sets the tone for the rest of her evening. Now, I just wanted to tell you a story about my experience with my dad. And it's interesting, as I was preparing for our talk today, I found myself getting choked up because my dad died 10 years ago and I still miss him terribly. The last years of his life, he had Alzheimer's. And even during those years, I would love to just go in and sit and hold his hand. I would read to him. He couldn't really talk, but just feeling his hands brought me so much comfort. And so he still had this enormous power in my life, even though he couldn't talk. And what I wouldn't do for one day back for that, even, as he couldn't say my name. But I want to just tell you, illustrate my point about a father's power in a daughter's life and how powerful your words are. And this has to do with that you are the most important man in her life. When I was 16 years old, many, 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 many years ago, I decided I wanted to go to medical school. My father was a physician. He never pushed me to go. He never told me I should go. He always made me feel that I could be whatever I wanted when I was older. And, if I wanted to be a teacher, no matter what. If I wanted to be a full-time stay-at-home mom, wonderful. He said, you are able to do anything you want and don't let anybody tell you should do one thing over another. But when I was 16, I started working with a friend of his and I decided I wanted to go to medical school. It's all I thought about all the way through high school and then through college. And my senior year in college, I wrote up a lot of applications to medical school and I got one rejection letter after another, after another, after another. And, at 21 years of age, I was rejected by every medical school. And, at that age, 21, being rejected by every medical school, not only did I feel stupid, I felt my dreams were dashed. I felt I was not going to be able to be anything because I had no backup plan. That's all I planned for, and it crashed. So I went home to live with my parents and I went out for a walk. I came back in and I heard my dad talking to somebody on the telephone, and he was in his study and the door was shut. And I was really curious. I just needed to hear what my dad was saying. I don't know why. That's just what daughters do when their dads are talking. And I leaned my ear against the door and I heard him say my name. And he said to this man who was on the other end of the phone, yes, my daughter Meg will be going to medical school in the next couple of years. And I was stunned. I thought, what does my dad know that I don't know? Has he seen a letter that I didn't get? No, that wasn't it. But the moment I heard my father's confidence in me and him telling his friend that I would accomplish what I'd set my mind out to accomplish, I had no doubt from that moment on my life that I was going to accomplish it because my dad said so. So your daughter's dads are paying attention to everything you say, even when you think you're saying it in private. It's not private. She'll find out what you're saying. But what you say about her in private is going to shape who she becomes in the future. And it's interesting. I heard my dad say that in 2 minutes? And it changed my life. It changed my life because I eventually did go on to medical school the next year. And then I wrote books. And I will tell you, when I was in my 40s and I was in my 50s, every time I went to write a book or give a lecture, I thought, I don't have anything to say. I'm not prepared. I can't do this. And those 2 minutes from my dad's voice would come back to me and say, yes, you can do anything you want. Move ahead. So those 2 minutes changed decades of my life. That's the power in your words. So don't worry about having to give your daughter things and do certain things for her. You will shape her character and identity just by the way you act and talk around her and around your home. So I just wanted to let you know, because again, and even though my dad's passed, I still hear his voice and I still find strength in that. And I've been married for almost 40 years. And I have a great husband, and he's told me a lot of wonderful things, but he's not my dad. And that's because when my dad told me things, I was a child, and my hero was talking to me. And the man who was smarter than anybody was talking to me. The man who knew everything that no other man knew was talking to me. But when I go to marry, we're on equal planes. It's adult to adult. So my husband could tell me the same thing, and maybe I'd believe it, maybe I wouldn't, but it would be filtered through adult eyes. That's why you, dads, are the most important man in your daughter's life. Second, you are her first love. You are her first love. Think about it. When she's a baby, her first experience of male touch, male affection, male love, male hugs comes from you. And if you are trustworthy, even in those first few months of her life, she learns that it's okay to trust men. And this is why it's so critical that fathers understand that when she's a baby, or even 2 or 3, and you pick her up and you hug her, you think, well, I'm hugging her, I'm playing with her, this is really fun. But she is feeling, since my dad is a safe person and my dad hugs me and my dad is affectionate with me, I can trust other men to be that way too. My brother, well, maybe not. I don't know what her brother's like, but you know what I'm saying. You set the template for how she will relate to men for the rest of her life, and the contrary is true as well. Unfortunately, if a daughter has a painful experience with her father when she's young, she will learn not to trust men. She will learn that they're not safe to be around, and she will be frightened. Now, this is kind of a scary thought, because I know many of your dads are going, what did I do? What did I say? Don't worry about that. Don't worry about that at all, because we'll talk about that later. Now, a lot of dads may be sitting here going, this is kind of confusing. I'm really kind of confused, because this isn't the way I think, and this is not the way I felt towards my parents. Well, okay, right. Because you think differently than girls do. You think differently than women do, but you don't feel differently. So I'm hoping that as I talk about your daughter's feelings and experiences and trust and sense of safety with you, that you can resonate that as when you were a young boy, what did you want? Who did you feel safe around? Did you feel safe around your dad? If you didn't, then you've got your work cut out for you. But I need you to know this. No matter what kind of upbringing you had, no matter what kind of father you had, dads, you can pave a very new, wonderful path for your daughter. I've seen it over and over. I work with some of the players in the NFL here, the football players, and I thought it was kind of funny that they wanted me to work with them, because I'm a middle-aged grandmother, and one of the reasons they said they wanted me to come in and talk to them about how to relate to their daughters is because many of them didn't have dads growing up, and the person they trusted was their mother. And since I was about their mother's age, they thought I would be a good fit. Well, anyway, it was very interesting, because they had a lot of confidence on the football field. They were well-disciplined. They had a lot of courage. These were tough men. They knew their skills were incredible. But then when they went home, they didn't know how to be a dad, because they didn't grow up with a dad. And they were really scared they were going to mess their daughters up, because they didn't know what to do. And so one of the first things that I did to them is say, wait a minute. You do know what to do. You are highly skilled men. You are team players. You're committed. You're disciplined. You know how to listen to coaching. Now let's just do that in your family. And it's like the light bulb went on. When they realized they could start fresh anew with their own daughters, they were so thrilled. And that's exactly what you can feel like right now, dads. If you had bad experience with a father growing up. Now, there are a lot of times when you may feel, particularly if you dads, if you have 11 or a 12 or a 14-year-old daughter, and you can say, well, this is great that you talk about me being the most important man in my daughter's life. And it's wonderful to know that I'm her first love. But you've never met my daughter. You know, she used to be this really sweet thing, and we did things together when she was 5 and 8. And then one day, I don't know what happened. She was around 11. She walked in the kitchen before she was going to school. I went to give her a big, huge hug, and she stood there like a telephone pole with spikes all over it. And she refused to let me touch her. I was stunned. My feelings were hurt. And I immediately thought, what have I done? Why does she hate me now? You know, what is happening? My daughter overnight, or within a couple of weeks, turned from this lovely, wonderful person into this ornery girl who's pushing me away and telling me with her body language that she hates me. And so what I want to tell you, dads, really kind men and wonderful dads get their feelings hurt. And I want to tell you, if you have a 15-year-old or an 18-year-old or an 11-year-old girl who doesn't want anything to do with you, it has nothing to do with you. It has nothing to do with you. I'll tell you what's going on inside her heart. She is going through puberty, and she's feeling a lot of changes. And as she feels those changes about her body, she doesn't like them. She doesn't like herself very much. She feels awkward. She feels too fat, too thin, too pimply, too tall, too short, too whatever. And she feels like everybody else looks at her the same way. And when she realizes that you, who are her first love, may feel the same way, she wants to push away because she's afraid that you will see who she really is. So when she pushes away, it's not because she's rejecting you. It's because she's rejecting herself. And many men, many fathers will think in their minds, I saw my own husband do this, well, if she's 14 or 16 and she pushes me away and she doesn't want anything to do with me, okay, I'll go away. That is the worst thing you can do. Because remember this, if you don't remember anything else, when your daughter acts out and she acts snarky and nasty and mean, she's crying out to you for something. She's crying out to you for attention. She wants you to help fix something in her because she has no idea how to fix it. Now, that can be tricky. And as I said, many of you who are going through really tough experience with your daughters may say, I don't know what I'm talking about, but I do. And here's why. I've literally listened to thousands of girls and their parents over the years. So I get to hear what daughters say about you. And if you could be in my office and just hear what they say about you, your life would never be the same. You'd never be the same. What they want from you, they want affection, they want attention, they want you to admire them. You want to affirm them. It's really all they want. It's really all they want because you are that big in their lives. On the contrary, if you have been absent in your daughter's life, say, maybe you're sitting there saying, well, this is all great, but I wasn't with my daughter when she was 5 or 10, or she's always pushed me away. And so I really don't know what to do because I didn't have that foundation with my daughter for many different reasons. Well, it's still okay. And I'll tell you why. She still wants you, but it's going to be a little harder to get to her because she's going to test you. She doesn't know if she can trust you. She doesn't know if you're safe. She doesn't know if you're going to leave her. You see, if you were gone before, she doesn't know you're going to leave again. And it's going to be very painful for her if you do leave again and she's trusted you to love her. And so she'll be on her guard a lot. That's okay. That's okay. Don't leave her. Gently, gently, gently move in and let her know that you want to be with her. And when she pushes you away, don't be discouraged. She's pushing away because she's feeling insecure on the inside. when your daughter pushes you away, and I just said you need to move forward, and you say, well, how do I do that? Well, here's how you do that. You figure out, okay, I know she wants my attention and I know she needs my affection, but she won't touch me. So what am I to do? Well, you learn to give her attention differently and you learn to give her affection differently. So rather than having her walk into the kitchen and mom's there, other people are there, and giving her a big bear hug, don't do that, because she's shown you that she's uncomfortable with that. So touch her on the top of her head, or pat her on the shoulder, or pat her on the back and say, have a wonderful day, honey. That's it. And don't hug her in front of her friends, unless she's unusual. I didn't mind mostly being hugged in front of my friends by my dad, but there were times I kind of didn't. And again, it's not because I thought my dad was a creep. It's because I just was embarrassed. I just didn't know how to navigate it. And as far as giving her attention, try to find little times during the day when you can just chat with her for a couple of minutes. If she's watching a show, go in and just sit down next to her and watch it with her for either 5 or 10 minutes. If you're going to go do something like change the oil in your car, ask if she wants to go with you. Just let her know you still want to be with her. Girls are so desperate for their dad's attention because there really is a hole in their heart, if you will, for dad, for you. And what they always want is for you to fill that hole. And if that hole isn't filled, they will cry out over and over and over. I had a 16-year-old girl in my practice several years ago who really was getting into trouble. Really nice mom and dad. Really great mom and dad. But this girl was drinking and she was into drugs, and she had the boyfriend that was every father's nightmare and every mother's nightmare. And she quit school. She dropped out of school. She threatened to run away, and parents are just beside themselves. So they came into my office with their daughter and said, please help. We need to send our daughter away to a camp that will fix her because she's really struggling and we don't know what to do. And I said, well, I can give you the name of some places to send her, but let's try and experiment first. I said to the father, I said, would you be willing to take her on a camping trip for just 3 days? And he looked at me as though I just cut his arm off, because she was very close to her mother, but she wasn't really close to her dad because her dad was quiet. He worked a lot. He loved her, but he really just didn't know how to show her, attention or even an affection. And so she wanted his attention. And so he said, I'll try, but I don't know that she's going to go with me. So a couple months went by and I didn't hear anything from them. And I saw him in a store and we were alone. It was private. And I said, hey, how did everything go? I didn't hear back. He said, you're not going to believe it. But it took me about a month to convince her to go on this trip. But we went on the trip, and we went on a canoe trip. And neither of us knew how to canoe, but that was okay. And I took her for 5 days because we were going to drive far away, because I was afraid if I went too close to home, she'd run away on me. So I took her far away, and she said it was really a tough experience. He said, the first day we were on the river, she didn't say a word. Not a word. He said, do you know what it's like being in the back of a canoe paddling with a 16-year-old girl who won't talk to you? He said, it's horrible, but I just sat there. And he said, the second day we were paddling and she just started to yell and she was mad. And he said, I didn't know what to say. So I just sat there and I just kind of listened. Very important. And then he said, the third day, I don't know if it was better or worse than the previous 2 days, but she started to cry. And, it broke my heart. I didn't know what to do when she was crying, and it made me start to cry, and I was dumbfounded. I didn't know what to do. So she started to, tell me about times when I wasn't there for her, times that I said something that hurt her feelings. I don't remember saying it. Long and the short, he said by the fourth day, we were starting to talk to each other. And by the fifth day, we were talking and we were crying and we were together. And we felt like we had this breakthrough. We didn't want to go home. Now, that's unusual that a situation of, such pain between a father and daughter turns that quickly. But here's my point. here was a dad who had no idea what to do with his daughter. His daughter was in terrible pain, terrible trouble, but she needed something from her dad. And her dad and mom thought she needs something from some other people, a camp that's very expensive. No, she didn't. She needed time with her dad, time to just stay in a canoe and paddle, time to just have her dad listen, time where neither of them could go anywhere. And they committed to one another after they came home to have breakfast together every Saturday morning, just to keep their relationship growing. They still had problems, but it was huge. It was huge. She stopped drinking. She got rid of the boyfriend because in her heart, her hero came through. In her heart, the man she loved most came through and said, I love you too. I don't really know how to say it very well, but being with you and sticking with you in this terribly, terribly painful time is how I will show it to you. So that's how huge you are in your daughter's lives. I also want to encourage fathers who are concerned that they're not going to get something right. They're not going to send their kids to the best school. They're not going to have enough money. They're not going to have money to pay for a car or whatever it is. They're not going to be able to communicate well. They're not going to be able to understand her. Don't worry about any of that. Don't worry about any of that, because what your daughter wants is the simple, big things. And your job, Dad, is just to get the big stuff right. And the big stuff doesn't have to do with what her school is. It doesn't have to do with the grades she gets or what you provide for her. It's nice. But what she wants is your affection and your time and your attention, as I've been saying. And I promise you, if you just give her those things, she'll stay on the track you want her to be on. You know, because our job as parents is not to create our kids to be who we want them to be. Your job, Dad, is to say, here's this road my daughter is going to walk down. And I'm going to set fence on one side and a fence on the other side. And I'm going to keep her on that path, because if she goes too far this way or too far that way, she's going to get in big trouble. So my job as her dad is to walk behind her, and even at times walk in front of her and say, here's the safe path to stay on. I'll show you where it is. Because she doesn't want you to tell her what to do. She wants to know who you think she is. And she doesn't want you to do stuff for her. She wants you to be her dad. So as much as you want to know that you love her because of who she is, not what she gives you, she wants to love you for who you are, not the stuff you're going to give her. And so I hope that during our time together, you can see that what your daughter wants is very, very simple. And they're the things of the heart. But we're not taught as parents how to give our kids the things of the heart. We're told what to do for them, but our kids aren't interested in that. Your daughter wants your heart. And I know that you want your daughter's heart too. Our girls are getting a lot of really bad messages out there. You know, if you could see what comes through your daughter's social media on her phone, it would make your hair stand on it. It would make the hairs in the back of your neck stand up. If she's 11 or she's 13 or she's 15 and she's on social media, there's a very good chance that someone has asked her to send nude pictures of herself to them. There's a very good chance that she has been communicating with a man who says he's her age, but is probably 20 years older. There's a really good chance that she's communicating to people she has no idea who they are. But because she's so nice, she believes everything that people are telling her. She's so nice. She doesn't want to hurt anybody's feelings, and she doesn't want to say, stop it. But the messages she gets from social media teach her that her worth and her value come from what other people think about her. And that's why girls are addicted to social media, because the more people like them, the better they feel about themselves, the more they need to go back and get more likes. But it's a ruse. It doesn't work. And she knows it doesn't work. but she tries to fill her, it's like any addiction. She tries to fill herself up with more and more and more, but it never satisfies, because what she wants and what she needs is your affirmation. You teaching her where her value comes from. But if you're not in there bringing strong balance to the really toxic messages that she's getting or streaming at her every day, she doesn't stand a chance. That's why good dads change daughters. They change neighborhoods. They change towns. They change cities. They will change your country. And one of the biggest problems that we have here in the United States is that we treat dads as though they don't mean anything to anybody. And then our daughters are craving attention and acceptance anywhere they can find it, but it doesn't work. And this is how you restore countries and restore daughters. So you want your daughter to not succumb to the pressure she feels on social media, but you do need to know, dads, who's talking to her, what are they saying, and you need to have all access to all of her social media. Now, you don't need to write on it and everything, but what she sees, you need to see, because you need to know what's happening in her mind so that you can balance it. I want to also, as I was talking to you about how you sort of set this template for how your daughter's going to relate to men and boys the rest of your life. For those of you who have a Judeo-Christian faith and believe in God, this is going to be tough. But if your daughter has a good relationship with you and trusts you as a man, she's more likely to trust God. But if she has a painful relationship with you, she's less likely to have faith, because she thinks God the Father is not very nice. And it's important that we attend to our daughter's spiritual lives, because the messages they're getting from the world are so superficial. They're so superficial. Our daughters are being taught that if they're sexy and they're pretty, and they hang around with the right people and they get in the right group of friends, then they're okay and they're good. You never want your daughters to believe this, because it doesn't work. Our daughters want something deeper. They want something deeper. They want a relationship with you that's good and strong, and they want a spiritual foundation. And I've done a lot of research on this, and studies show that girls who have a strong relationship with their dad, not a perfect one, but a strong one, and with God, are less likely to get into trouble, less likely to drop out of school, less likely to be depressed, and less likely to get into sex, drugs, and alcohol. The list just goes on and on. Girls want depth. They don't want what they're getting through social media. I know my time is ending and I need to move on here. But what I would like to close with here is a few things. And I want you to remember what I've talked about. You're the most important man in your daughter's life. Never, ever, ever, ever forget that. You are her first love. And you are the one who will teach her and give her the big stuff she really needs. So don't worry about the little stuff. Don't worry about the superficial stuff. So moving forward, what do you do? When you leave here today, what are you going to do? First of all, try to think about who you are to her. How does she see you? Don't focus on what you're doing and focus on how she sees you. And think about that picture that I tried to do, that you're larger than life, that what you say sticks and it changes who she becomes. Second, set aside 10 minutes a day if you can, just to have one-on-one time with her. And I would encourage you, don't do it after school. Don't do it after work. Do it in the evening when she's getting ready for bed. I had a friend just sort of stand in his daughter's doorway and said, honey, I hope you have a good night's sleep. How was your day? I haven't seen you in a while. How was so-and-so? And just to talk for 5 minutes before she goes to bed at night, because that's the kind of attention she craves, and she's more relaxed. And when you give her that one-on-one attention, just for 10 minutes a day, it's a life changer. It's that 2 minutes that my dad said that thing to that man on the phone and changed my life. Third, show her affection. Every day, a touch on the head, a touch on the shoulders. Doesn't have to be much. If she'll let you hug her once a day. That's it. daughters feel affirmed when they get affection. Fourth, tell her positive things about her character. Don't talk about what she looks like. Don't talk about her weight ever. But talk to her about her character. Honey, you're so patient. Honey, you're so kind. You're so good to people. You have so much courage. You try and try and try. Focus on talking to her about her character, because that will build her more on the inside. Tell her that you love her no matter what, because you may say, well, she knows I love her. She may not, but she needs to hear it. You know, women bond with other people by talking and by words. Men bond through doing stuff together. But your daughter needs to hear from your mouth that you love her no matter what, no matter whether she flunked out of school, no matter, you know, whatever she did. Nothing can make you stop loving her. Now, if you're a single dad, or if you're a dad who's made a lot of mistakes, you go, this lecture is not for me. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Because let's say you haven't seen your daughter in 20 years and you crave a relationship with her. You can have a good one. Here's how I know. Every woman takes one man to her grave. And if she dies when she's 70 or 80, that means she takes you to her grave. So no matter how old she is, she wants you. No matter what kind of mistakes you've made, she will forgive you. She wants a new relationship. Not going to happen overnight. You're going to need some help, but you need to know in her heart, she desperately wants you, because she has only one father. Leave today knowing that right now you have everything you need. You're wired with everything you need to be a really good dad to your daughter. And if you've made mistakes, it's never, ever too late to start again, because you've got it all. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. I'm going to entertain some questions now, if I still have time. That's a great question. And while no man can completely replace dad, because every daughter wants to know who her dad is, biologically, whatever, boy, a good man can come really close. I've seen it happen. And it's very important that single mothers realize, whether it's been through a death or a divorce, or maybe dad was never around, that a daughter needs male influence, because we're so different. A daughter still needs affirmation and attention from a man. So, and it's very important for a mother to know this and to give her daughter exposure to good men. If she remarries a wonderful man, that daughter can have a wonderful relationship with her stepdad. If she's living with her grandfather, she can have a wonderful relationship with her grandfather. Any good man can step in and fill that void, because you think of the empty place in her heart. Another good man can come in and love her well. It won't be in her mind what her dad had, but it might be better. We don't know, because she didn't know her dad. But yes, and that's why it's very, very important for men who are good men to look around and try to help out daughters who are being raised by a single mom. If you're a man and your sister is a single mom and has a daughter, help her out. Take your niece out to the movies. I've been to a number of weddings where I've seen a stepfather walk a daughter down the aisle when her biological father may be sitting in the back but was never around. So yes, a good man can be a great father substitute if a girl has one. Well, that again is a great question. I wrote a chapter in my book, Strong Fathers, Strong Daughters, that says, be the man you want your daughter to marry. And it goes back again to how a daughter as a child and a young woman growing up sees her dad. There's a psychological principle that says that what we learn early on in life sort of anchors us. And we always want to go back to that, because it's part of who we are. And as you said, that can be positive and it can be negative. That means if a daughter grows up with a dad and has a really positive experience with her dad. Let's say her dad treats her well. He never hits her, swears at her. He teaches her that she can be a strong young woman. That woman is not going to go marry somebody who's going to be mean to her. She just won't, because she will start dating a man and say, wait a minute, you don't treat me like my dad treats me. Get out of here. So we want what we know. But the converse is true. If a woman had a very abusive relationship with her father, she's more likely to marry an abuser. And again, we gravitate back toward what we know. So that's why it's really important for fathers to know, even if you struggle with your temper, even if you struggle with feeling like you can't communicate to your daughter, that's okay. But what you need to do is try to be as good of a man in front of your daughter as you can, because that's what she wants to find in the future. He may not have the job you have. He may not look like you, but the important parts of his character will be very similar to the important parts of your character. Because again, as I said, you're the most important man, and that carries through her teen years, and that sets her up for what she's going to want in the future. Now, I know that can be kind of scary for men, but you can do it. I mean, men are tough. They're strong. You give them a task to do, they can do it. So I don't ever be afraid of telling men that, because you can, think about the man you want your daughter to marry, and then go, that's what I need to show her. As remember, you're walking down this path. I need to walk ahead of her and show her, this is how you should expect a man to treat you. This is how a man should talk to you. This is how a man should behave in front of you. And once you get a few of those right, she's going to have a great marriage. Again, I think that in general, men really have a hard time with that because it's cultural. Men love as intensely as women do. Men crave attention and affection. Men know what it feels like to be rejected and to not want someone to touch them. And so it's very important that men work to break through that. And sometimes it's very scary, but they can do it. And learn to hug and be affectionate with your daughter. It's safer to do it with your daughter than maybe your son. It's very important with sons as well. But remember, if as uncomfortable as you may be with it, your daughter needs it, because it tells her who she is. When you hug her, it tells her that she's important, that she's lovable, that you like the young woman she's becoming. If you don't hug her, then she doesn't know where she stands. And it's more important, fathers, that you do what your families need and your daughters need more than you listen to the culture around you. Because the culture around you doesn't really care about you, but your daughter cares about you and your daughter needs you. The culture doesn't, but your daughter does. So if you're uncomfortable with it, you can be comfortable, but just start very little at a time. And I think you'll find that it really feels good. It's really nice when you learn to show your affection. I think, and I've said it, but I really need to drive this point home, because in my experience over the years, so many fathers don't believe they can do this. They don't believe that they really can be a good dad to their daughters, even a great dad to their daughters. And I want to tell fathers, when those thoughts come in your head, get rid of them. They're not from your daughter. Your daughter needs you. Your daughter wants you. Your daughter craves your attention. And if you believe you can't give that to her, you not only lose, but she loses. And you have the ability to give it to her. No matter what mistakes you've made, start today and believe that and move forward, and it will change your life as well as your daughter's life. I love to take questions from listeners and readers, and I'd love to hear from you. Just to go to meekerparenting.com. That's meekerparenting.com. And I also have a podcast, which is quite popular globally, and it's called Parenting Great Kids. So I hope I hear from you, and I hope I connect with you, meekerparenting.com. Again, thank you so much for the opportunity to be with you. I really appreciate it.
Muchas gracias, doctora Meg Meeker, por esta gran conferencia que sin duda nos deja un aprendizaje que podemos trabajar día a día con nuestras hijas e hijos. Esperamos pronto tenerte de vuelta en Núcleo Familiar. Queremos invitar a todos los que nos acompañan a visitar nuestra página web por medio del código QR que aparece en pantalla para que disfruten todo el contenido que tenemos para sus familias. Les estaremos informando sobre nuestras próximas conferencias por medio de nuestras redes sociales. Nos vemos pronto, buenas noches y recuerden que juntos formamos familias fuertes. Que descansen.